Do you find yourself constantly making excuses, holding back from living the life you truly desire? What if I told you that the ancient teachings of Buddhism hold the key to breaking free from these excuses and unlocking your fullest potential? In this video, we'll dive into powerful strategies that will help you destroy every excuse and live your best life, starting today. Lesson 1. Recognize and own your excuses. The first thing you need to do to get rid of any excuse is to admit that you have one. Being aware is one of the most important ideas in Buddhism. Before we can live our best lives, we need to be aware of the reasons we give for not doing things. A lot of the time, these reasons come from wanting to avoid pain, being afraid of failing, or not wanting to take responsibility for what we do. When we are aware and honest with ourselves, we can start to see reasons for what they really are: walls. We build to hide from the truth and the work that it takes to change. It's only when we see our reasons that we start to own them. Owning something is important because it gives us the power to change. We understand that we are not victims of our situations, but rather active players in our lives. If we keep saying, "I don't have time," for example, we should think about how we're spending our time and what we're putting first. Are we not working on our goals while we spend hours on social media or TV? When we become aware of these patterns, we can start to make choices that are in line with our true goals. Taking responsibility for our excuses also means knowing where they came from. Do they come from the past, from social standards, or from not believing in yourself? Buddhism tells us to really look at ourselves, to question our feelings and thoughts, and to find out why we act the way we do. By looking at ourselves, we can see that making excuses is often a way to hurt ourselves. We can choose to stop making excuses and start living the life we want. Once we understand this, remember that we have the power to change, and the first thing we need to do is take responsibility for how our world came to be. Lesson 2. Set clear, achievable goals. To get rid of all excuses, the second lesson is to set clear goals that you can reach. In Buddhism, the idea of right intention tells us to make plans that are in line with our values and goals. To live our best life, we need to have a clear picture of what that life looks like and the steps we need to take to get there. By making clear, measured, and attainable goals that are also difficult enough to encourage growth, we can see things more clearly. When we make goals that are too broad or too easy to reach, we set ourselves up to fail and be frustrated, which makes us more likely to make excuses. People often use, "I can't do this," or "it's too hard," as an excuse, when their goals aren't clear or are too high. We should instead break down our big goals into smaller jobs that we can handle. This way of thinking makes the trip less scary and gives us a sense of success as we reach each goal. Buddhism also stresses the value of being patient and persistent. Setting goals that we can reach helps us make steady progress without getting stuck or giving up. We learn to value the trip and the little wins along the way. This way of thinking keeps us going and makes it less likely that, use reasons when things get tough. Being honest about our strengths and weaknesses is also a part of setting clear goals. There are big goals we should have, but we should also be honest about what we can actually do. Being honest with ourselves keeps us from setting ourselves up to fail and helps us make a plan that is both difficult and doable. There are no reasons for not working toward our goals when we know exactly what they are and why we are working toward them. Lesson 3. Adopt a growth mindset. Third, have a growth mindset. Buddhists believe that everything is always changing. This is called the concept of impermanence. When we use this knowledge to improve ourselves, it can give us power. People with a growth mindset believe that we can improve our skills and knowledge by working hard and being dedicated. It's about taking on tasks, learning from feedback, and getting something out of failing. When we have a growth attitude, we stop trying to prove ourselves and instead focus on getting better. People who have a fixed mindset often make excuses because they think their skills are set in stone and that failing shows how valuable they are. People with this way of thinking are afraid to try new things. don't like to take risks, and give up quickly. A growth attitude, on the other hand, tells us to see problems as chances to learn and grow. It helps us see that our current skills don't limit what we can do, and that we can grow and get better with work. Buddhism also teaches us to stop caring about how things turn out. We pay more attention to the way things work than to the end result. When we have a growth attitude, we learn to enjoy the process of getting better instead of being obsessed with getting results right away. This change in how we look at things makes us less afraid of failing, which in turn makes us less likely to make reasons to avoid it. When we believe that we can grow and change, we become stronger and less likely to give up when things go wrong. We stop seeing mistakes as failures and start seeing them as opportunities to learn. This way of thinking not only helps us stop making excuses, it also gives us the strength to keep trying to be our best selves. Remember that having a growth mindset means realizing that we can do anything we set our minds to, and that every step we take is progress, no matter how small. Lesson 4. Surround yourself with positive influences. The fourth lesson is to spend time with people who are optimistic. Along with the Buddha and the Dharma, teachings, the Sangha or society is one of the 3 jewels in Buddhism. This shows how important it is to live in community or place that supports you and helps you grow as a person and spiritually. It's important to be aware of the people and places we choose to be in order to get rid of all excuses and live our best lives. Negative effects, like those from other people, the media, or our environment, can make us feel tired, less motivated, and more likely to make excuses. If we are around people who are always whining or making excuses, for example, it is much easier for us to think the same way. Positive influences, on the other hand, can motivate and inspire us, which can help us stay focused on our goals and keep a good mood. We learn to be loving and compassionate, not only toward other people, but also toward ourselves. In Buddhism, by putting ourselves in situations with positive people, we build an atmosphere that supports these traits. It's important for us to help each other through hard times and cheer each other on when we do well. It's easier to stop making excuses and stay committed to our own growth when we are in a setting like this. Having good influences also helps us keep our promises. Friends, family, or a network of people who care about us makes us more likely to keep our promises and reach our goals. We know that other people are rooting for us and believe in our dreams. Being responsible for our actions can be a strong motivation that helps us get past problems and stop making excuses. Remember that we can pick which ideas we want to follow. By being around positive people, we make it easier for ourselves to grow, be successful, and live our best lives. Lesson 5. Develop a plan and stick to it. Make a plan and follow it. That's the 5th lesson. The Eightfold Path is an organized way for Buddhists to grow morally and mentally. Its goal is to free people from attachments and delusions, and it's basically a plan for getting enlightenment. Along the same lines, if we want to live our best lives, we need a plan that helps us stay focused and on track. It's easy to get lost, sidetracked, or down when you don't have a plan. Even if we mean well at first, if we don't have a clear plan, our efforts can get lost and not work. A well-thought-out plan helps us stay on track and gives us direction. It helps us set priorities, make good use of our resources, and keep track of our progress. Having a clear picture of what needs to be done and why makes it less tempting to make excuses. But it's not enough to just have a plan. We have to stick to it. To keep this promise, you need to be disciplined, persistent, and have a strong sense of purpose. In Buddhism, practicing mindfulness helps us stay in the present and pay attention, which lets us do what we set out to do. By practicing mindfulness, we can keep track of our activities and make sure they help us reach our goals. Our goal is to learn how to spot when we are going off track and make changes before we make excuses. Being able to change and adapt is also part of sticking to a plan. Life is unexpected, and problems that you didn't expect will happen. In Buddhism, we learn how important it is to be able to let go of fixed ideals and not be attached to anything. When we run into problems, we shouldn't give up or make excuses. Instead, we should see them as chances to look at our plan again and make changes. This ability to change helps us stay focused on our goals, even when things go wrong. Remember that a plan is only a guide. Our dedication and ability to change are what will make or break our success. We get rid of excuses and make a clear road to our best life when we make a plan and stick to it. Lesson 6. Learn from failure. That's the 6th lesson. Fail and learn from it. The Buddhist idea of beginner's mind tells us to go into every situation with an open mind, without any judgment or preconceptions. This way of thinking is very important when you fail. To live our best life, we need to learn to see lost mutt as a setback or a sign of how bad we are, but as a chance to learn and grow. People often make excuses because they are afraid of failing. Because we don't want to make mistakes or not measure up, we might not try new things or take risks. On the other hand, Buddhism tells us that failure is a normal part of life and an important part of growing and learning. When we look at loss with the mind of a child, we let it teach us something. If we fail, it's because we learned something that can help us get better. We should not try to hide our mistakes or put the blame on outside causes. Instead, we should own up to our actions and figure out what went wrong. What do we know about this from this? What could we do differently next time? If we ask these questions, we can use loss as a way to get better instead of as a hindrance. Buddhism also stresses how important it is to be strong and keep going even when things get hard. Like a tree that bends in the wind but doesn't break, we need to learn how to change and get back up. After failing, we become more resilient by constantly pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones and giving ourselves time and practice. We get stronger, more flexible, and better able to reach our goals with each loss. When we fail and learn from it, we get rid of the reasons that hold us back and build the strength to keep going. As we move toward our best life, we learn that loss is not something to be afraid of, but something to welcome as an important part of the way. Lesson 7. Take immediate action. The last thing you should learn is to act right away. Right action is a Buddhist practice that tells us to be moral and deliberate in our actions, and to avoid doing things that hurt ourselves or others. We need to make a habit to act right away on our goals and dreams if we want to get rid of all our excuses and live our best lives. Fear, doubt, or confusion are common reasons why people put things off or don't do them. We might wait until it's perfect or until we're ready, but there is never a good time to start. Right now is the only time we have, and we need to move. We need to be brave and ready to leave our comfort zones in order to move right away. It means making a promise to reach our goals and taking the first small step. This action builds momentum, and each step forward makes us feel more sure of ourselves and less likely to make excuses. We understand that many of the problems we face are ones we create for ourselves, and that we can solve them by taking action. Buddhism also teaches how important it is to live in the present and enjoy every moment. Mindfulness makes us more aware of our goals and the effects of our activities. When we do something, we get in touch with our inner direction more deeply and can make choices that are more in line with our values and goals. Being mindful helps us stay focused and determined, which makes it less likely that we'll make excuses. Additionally, acting right away supports the belief that we are strong and in charge of our lives. It gives us the power to make our own decisions about our lives and our future. If we do something right now, we are telling ourselves that we deserve our goals and have the power to reach them, to live our best life and get rid of all our excuses. We need to be aware of and accept them, set clear goals, have a growth mindset, surround ourselves with positive people, make a plan, learn from our mistakes, and act right away. Every one of these lessons is a step toward a happy, purposeful, and full life. Stay strong, because we have the power to change. It's up to us to begin living our best life.